Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news, and, well, Two Blokes Chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
It is 8.5 past 10 o'clock. This is the Two Blokes Chatting radio show. I'm Neil Butler. He is Rob Cameron. This is how Geelong spends Saturday mornings, even on grand final morning. Robert,
even.
You have done some remarkable work during the week.
I'm excited.
And for that reason, I'm going to let you do the intros today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Delighted to have a man I call a friend. David Bolton played footy with both Sydney and Geelong, so he's got a little bit of a foot in each camp. And his good friend, former teammate in the Harbourside Swanee days, Barry Mitchell. Good morning to you both, gentlemen.
Morning, Rob. Good morning, Rob.
This works really, really well. Right. Hey, let's wind the clock back. You two appeared on more than one occasion on the MCG, not in the grand final, but in finals, and always just not quite there. Those heady days back there with the great Tommy Hafey and the Edelston clan, still great memories for you fellas?
Away you go, Barry. Yeah, I suppose, look, it's a fair many moons ago and a few hair follicles ago. We actually, from memory, it was 86, 87, we played the four finals and got beaten in all of them. So it wasn't a great end of the year for us, but our build-ups to those years were pretty good. Looking back, we probably should have got a Sydney final because we finished second both times, and we're probably better on the smaller ground up there.
As a Brisbane Lions supporter, Barry, I'm hearing you about the need to play football games on the MCG. It makes me shake my head to this day.
Yeah, well, I guess it's about money, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely it is.
And enough eyeballs to see it. And if you're going to win it, you have to win it at that ground, I suppose. That's that part of it. But I think if there is a home ground advantage, that's what you play the whole season for.
David, those heady days, you'd remember being a young Geelong fella. Billy Goggin went out to Geelong West and they became the big ticket in town. Sundays, watching the VFA was very important viewing. But when you fellas were at the height of your powers, everybody in Victoria was tuned to Channel 7 Sunday afternoons to watch the Sydney Swans play. You just provided such an incredible entertainment package as a group. Were you sort of aware at that stage of how much, even though you're a long way away in Sydney, how much of a cult following you had in Victoria by the way you played?
Probably not, Robert, because, it was just lining up and ready to play. But no, the following, we really didn't know it was that strong. But you mentioned the VFA there and the heady days there. They were fantastic, weren't they? The long necks down behind the goals with big frog richies.
And that's just the players.
They were great days, yeah. Yeah, the West Oval really did come to life in those days. It was compulsory entertainment for we locally and on the television Sunday afternoon. But you guys sort of took over from that. You owned it for a period of time, playing a style of footy that was, well, it's a style I wish would come back. Yeah,
it was full out attack, wasn't it? It was good fun to be a part of, that's for sure. And exciting times. So let's hope the game sort of pans out something like that today.
And with the Shire retiring full forward up front, he wouldn't have been taking much of the spotlight, I wouldn't have thought.
It was a perfect segue because I was going to ask Barry if he catches up a bit with Warwick Kappa, because David, you've been doing a bit of cabaret work with with Warwick recent times in Geelong, a bit of a show you put on together. Barry, you keep catch up with the Wiz?
I've caught up with the Wiz a couple of times this year, actually. We've had a few beers down at the Espy and a few old heads get in there, and Warwick, always the flamboyant one, strode in his sort of army-style tracksuit with a big gold chain, and it was good to catch up with him, really. He was a sensational player in his day. I know people can sort of make their assumptions of what sort of person he is. He's a good guy, but geez, he could mark the ball, and he had to be a good mark with my passes. They weren't very to the chest. They were sort of floaters, I'd say.
No, you call those approximate, I think is how they're described.
All you need to do is plonk it on the fullback's head, and the Wiz was going to do the rest.
was a set play, really. We know it was.
And I guess you look back at the same time Mark Jackson was doing his thing, and again, an exceptionally talented footballer that sort of got a bit lost in the media hype, didn't it, for both of them?
Well, Jacko was very entertaining, obviously. Warwick was, a freak athlete, really. I think there's stories of him that he used to ride his skateboard down a hill doing a handstand. That guy could jump.
Hence the brain injury.
Allegedly. Yep.
Now, the format for the day, living in Geelong, David, we're going to appoint you as the unofficial coach of the Cats, and Barry, being a very much loved member of the Sydney history, you're going to put the Sydney coaching job. So, Barry, we'll start with you. Why do you think the Swans will win today?
Well, I think it's a pretty even go, to be honest. I think both teams have got momentum up, but I think Sydney's pressure was the thing that has got them. I mean, the first game, Melbourne, they just out-pressured them. The second game, they played really well, with the ball. So I think they can play both ways. I think if Franklin's all right, I'm not sure how many games Buddy can get up for in a row, but last week, his impact on the game was really set up the win, I think. So I think with him and Sam Reid played as good as I've seen last week, I think that gives a good avenue to goal, and I think the young midfield and their work rate, I think will take it right up to the Cats.
There's some concern that Sam Reid might not be fit, and memories of 2011 when Collingwood took an unfit Ben Reid into the grand final, which proved a bit costly in the end. You guys have played high-pressure football at the top end. Barry, can they afford to take Sam Reid in underdone?
Well, if he's injured, he can't play. I mean, whether he's going to play or not. There's always one every year, isn't there, that, is sitting in the balance. But if he doesn't play, I think McLean can come in. I think the guy that's undersold a bit is Hickey in the ruck, the love bite. Hickey. He's been a great spiritual player from, I think, this year. And I think their spirit is another thing that can get them close.
So coming out of last week's game, I'm, as I mentioned, Brisbane supporter, and I don't know that Geelong would have been too stressed by the pressure that we applied. Does coming out of a game against Collingwood was really tight, really high pressure right to the end, is that good preparation for a grand final, or does it mean that they're coming in a bit stressed, whereas Geelong come in sort of sitting in an armchair?
I reckon once you establish a style of play, that's just how you play. It doesn't matter how many weeks you have to do it. The interesting thing is whether
very astute, Barry.
Thank you, David. Look, I've been analysing this game for about the last 15 minutes.
Which is more than we've done, quite clearly.
Told me that I was in, so I'm making most of this up, but I hope it's standing okay.
No, it's good.
But, I mean, all teams are under pressure. I think Geelong are also... The thing that struck me about them is how well they mark the ball right across the ground. So... I think it's that Swans can get it to ground, and Papley and even Heaney's good in there and on the ground. I think that's where their little advantage lies as well.
Barry, you played with a little bit of cheek, it would be fair to say. Is the boy Papley, is he catch your attention a bit?
Oh, he's a beauty, isn't he? You'd love to snot him, but he's a... I just think he's so... I actually like his celebrations. I like the way he plays. He's cheeky. I mean, he really won them the game last week. They kicked the ball to a 1-on-2. He beat them both and kicked the goal and they win. So... You don't see 4-foot blokes often do that.
No, that is true. David, before we get into the Geelong analysis, a little bit about Barry. I know you're good mates, but we that are this old remember how good a player he was. Was he in a side that had Williams and Healy? Was he a little bit underrated?
Oh, absolutely. He got under everyone's guard, Barry. He'd rack up 30 possessions every week. I was still filthy on him when he was the number one pick for the Brownlow and didn't receive a vote. I voted up on him that night, and he actually talked himself up as well that night, so I went hard, but came back nothing.
Was that something to do with the conversation with the umpires, do you think, in hindsight, Barry?
No,
I couldn't
just did his thing, Barry. He never chatted them, nothing like that. It was all left up to Diesel to mouth off to them. Mitch didn't do anything.
I actually had a busy day thinking back to that. It was 1991. I had a terrific year, as I remember. But most of that, writing speeches, I throw it away, write another one, thank the sponsors, etc. Did a couple of interviews on the way in and didn't poll a vote.
Well, at least you could have kept it and passed it on to your young fella a few years later.
Well, I reckon they're making up for me, just giving him a few freebies.
Oh dear.
I think I've had him covered, to be honest.
David, now let's put your Geelong hat on. Josh Barnes has informed us fairly reliably that Max Holmes won't be playing. They're not prepared to take the risk on him. Mark O'Connor comes in. They're going to miss a bit of that athleticism up the wing with Holmes, but does it upset the balance of the side much?
No, not too much. Look at the depth they've got. It's just amazing. Blokes like Menengola and Parfit that have missed out, and they can at least drag one of those two in. And as good as the young fella's been, they've got plenty of experience coming in with those two being available as well.
You missed an opportunity then to say one soldier goes out, one soldier comes in. As long as he plays his role, it's all we ask of him.
Yeah, look, I can't see that being too much of a problem. It would have been great to see him come up, but let's face it, who comes up after a week after a hamstring?
So, and it looked like a really big ping, didn't it, when it happened at the time? You think, he's out for 3 or 4 weeks, the way it looked.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time it did look messy. So, Bolts, why will the Cats win?
Why will they win?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Rob, that they're a bunch of old guys.
Yep.
A lot of old guys. There's a lot of experience there. Everything needs to be aligned for the Swans to win today, and they've had 2 really hard games coming in. And I just think they've probably not peaked, but they've played nearly to their maximum both games. It's going to be tough to come up again. I think Geelong just had the best preparation and a heck of a lot of experience, and it's the time's right for them.
Go to you, Barry. Geelong will field the oldest average age of any grand final team in history, I found out last night, which sort of doesn't surprise a bit. But when you've got a lot of those old heads that have been there in hard situations, how important is it when things get tight in a game, Barry?
Well, I think what experience gives you is, I suppose, moments in the game that, Selwood and I think Dangerfield, was fantastic last week. The young kids are a bit of the unknown, so it doesn't mean they can't do it. It just means you haven't seen it before. But don't be surprised if Buddy jumps out of the ground either and just sends the joint right off. And we'll see what Bolton's got to say about that after the game. Let's see what he's got to say then.
Oh, that's when he becomes a former Sydney player, isn't it?
He's always been like he's getting ahead of himself. Been interesting, to be honest.
All right, Bolts. Return serve. Who's going to play on Franklin?
Big Buddy. Well, it's got to probably be the young fella, doesn't it? DeConing. He's taken all before him this year, and I think he'll have him covered. Just another notch in his belt.
Oh, love it.
Don't worry, he'll have some help though. There'll be plenty of blokes around helping him.
Yeah, would it be maybe more of a Jack Henry thing first up?
Nah, not for mine. I'd go with the young fella. Throw it to him. Just use him as the backup if we need to.
So, Barry, would you be happy if young DeConing lined up on your superstar?
Oh yeah, I think he'll take him to school. The big budster. I can see him dashing down the wing and just slotting those long snaps about 60, and then they've one arm pump to the crowd.
Yeah.
We'll all go up as one, even though I'm not going.
Yeah, all go up.
Barry, did you enjoy your time at Sydney more than Carlton? About the same, or more Carlton?
Look, I enjoyed all of it. It's a long time ago, but I think it was a little bit easier then. We just played and you weren't so focused on it as it is now. But we had a great time. I enjoyed a lot of my teammates, and on off the ground was good fun. So it was great. Yeah.
I guess because you were up there very early after Sydney became Sydney and stopped being South Melbourne, it's probably sort of 3 or 4 years after that happened, and being in what would have been, I suspect, a real bubble, I would have thought you'd notice a little bit of change moving down to Lygon Street.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I think playing in Sydney with the weather was good, and we were a pretty good team there for at least 3 of the years. Coming to Carlton, they were a strong club as well. They were a good club. I think the friendships you build out of footy clubs is probably the undersold thing. That how many games you play and all that, whatever you win along the way is great, but the friends you make is, I think, the most important part of the whole thing for me.
So 35 years later, you can get on the radio and slag off at each other.
Well, that's how you do it.
Let's talk about one gentleman that probably was very influential on your career and the game in general, was the great late Tommy Hafey. Up in that bubble, starting off, there's not many people in Sydney knew you, but you as a group, but you certainly took the world by storm. The influence that fella had on you, looking back now, not only as a footballer but as a person, was it substantial?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Tommy would, he encouraged us to train hard, which sort of suited me. And he lived a life of fitness, I'd say. So in terms of leadership, he definitely showed that. The funny thing with Tommy is he didn't like handball, and that's all we used to do. So we was happy to win, but we just handballed too much. One funny story, I came off and half Tommy said, "Bazza, your handball's been terrible." I said, "Which one?" He said, "All of them." Fair enough. Fair enough. But we had Greg Williams, who's the best handballer of all time. So we blame him. It was his fault. We just did what he did. He just did it better than the rest of us.
So, Bolts, on that score, did Tommy Hafey change because Williams was so good at it, and that perhaps allowed him to see how powerful a weapon handball could be?
Oh, look, as Mitch said, Tommy never used to like handball, but when it was on, he never used to complain about it either. It was like the old drop kicks he used to allow. They'd kick out from full back when Tommy had coached and they'd grub across the ground. I asked him about that. He said, "Oh, it's just what happened at the time." So I think he just went with the flow of what everyone else was doing and into. And as Mitch said, that Diesel would set everything going, and that would start run. One of my old coaches used to say is start the game with a handball, which starts everyone running. So that's what we would do up there. And that's why we were so attacking, I think.
Tommy might struggle in the modern game not having the tactical acumen, the days of the rah-rah run through the brick wall. Was that sort of still the basis of how he went about things?
Mitch, you can have that one.
Well, it's interesting tactics, whatever they are, but I think Bolt said we were pretty much all out attack, and I think handball sort of created that. So sometimes we could get done going back the other way. So where the game's changed now is all the zoning and all that sort of stuff, which has changed the game really. We just used to run around trying to get the ball and kick goal, really, which is the Malcolm Blight, Geelong thing. They were really high-powered scoring teams. But the game's just changed, so I think the coaches are the ones that have actually changed the game. It's more of a world game now, which is, zoning an area rather than picking a man up. It's been the big change in the game. I wasn't big on defence, tackling, chasing, picking up. It wasn't part of my game, really.
So you might struggle in the modern game, Mitch?
Yeah, if I can't do it my way, well, I won't do it at all.
You'll become a very good VFL player.
Something like that.
And the role of, he was obviously pivotal in terms of setting up the Sydney thing, the whole Jeffrey Edelston thing, the impact he had on the game in Sydney and therefore the development of the crowds and the following and all that sort of stuff, pivotal?
Well, yeah, I mean, it looked like it was a bit of a show, the whole thing, with all the razzmatazz that went around it. But we sort of didn't buy into that. We were just playing footy. I think the way we played was attractive for people to watch. I think on a Sunday, wasn't much else on. So, and once people got a bit of an affinity for us, I think they started to follow us as their second team. So, we were part of that, which we were lucky. And but as for the off-ground stuff, it didn't really affect what we were doing. It was just different for people to see it. I mean, we didn't play in a way that was sort of flamboyant. I suppose we were entertaining. Kappa was very much a flamboyant player, but he was also a very effective player. So there wasn't too much BS in what we were doing. And I think it goes down as a great, period for footy when we sort of started to get it going, I suppose.
Mitch, what are you going to be doing today? You said you're not going to the game. You're just normal Saturday afternoon, a few mates and a couple of beers?
Yeah, I've been for a run, had a swim, a bike, a bit of brekkie, in cans, then debrief.
It sounds like you got the day organised.
Yeah, it's all set up.
Beautifully done. So, David, got a little family outing for you up to the G.
Yep.
What do you do post match? Do you get down and try and find someone to share some memories with, or just get in the car and go home?
Oh, no, we'll be heading straight back home, Rob, and then we'll just wait and see where it pans out, and I'll be putting on the right scarf to go and party with
with the appropriate supporter group.
I was going to say, I got...
certainly not a fence sitter, you know that.
No, definitely not. But you have got the red and white one packed at the bottom of the lunch bag, just in case.
Linda's got that covered.
Yeah, beautifully done. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. It's really great to remember those heady days, and they were great days for fellas our vintage. As I said, you played a style of footy that I wish would come back. It's sort of, we see it a bit on occasions, but generally the players spend too much time down one end of the ground. You blokes used to just thoroughly entertain. I hope the day goes well for you, Mitch.
Thank you, mate.
You don't play up too much today, and your Swannies do as well as they can. And David, you sort of can't lose, but I have an inkling you'd like to see Geelong win.
Yeah, I think I'd like that, and I think they can.
So the winner, the margin, and the Norm Smith medalist from each of you, Barry?
I think it's going to be Sydney by a point. I'm going to go Heaney, the medal.
David?
Yeah, that'll do me.
Yep.
Now, we're after a margin?
Yeah, winner, margin, and Norm Smith.
So we've got Geelong, we've got 26 points, and we've got Jeremy Cameron.
There you go.
There you go. That's good. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Enjoy your day, whatever you do. Look forward to catching up with you soon, Bolts. Barry Mitchell, best of luck with your world, and hopefully it's around watching your son play some bloody good footy.
I appreciate that. Can I just say, if I see David in the Sydney rooms and they've got up, I'll be making a direct complaint.
Well, we have a segment on this program, Barry, called The Long Run, where Rob and I get off the long run and complain about something. If that happens, if Sydney wins and David's in the rooms, you've got our number. Call in next Saturday morning. You can have a crack on the long run.
Thank you very much.
Good on you, boys. All the very best.
Yes. Hooroo.
Oh, thanks, Rob. Thanks, Mitch.
David Bolton, Barry Mitchell, two of the highly entertaining players of that wonderful Sydney Swans era when they played some breathtakingly beautiful football.